we remember them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. We now invite you to say the names of your beloved dead as we ring a bell to remember them.
Kathleen Cresswell.
Janet Howells.
Maurice Felton.
Rena Bennett.
Stephanie Walsh. Linda Williams.
Trevor Keller. Anna David Pollock.
Yvonne Felton. Judy Earle.
Judith Zinke. Janice Pettigrew. Peter Mcnab.
Alice Hurley. Sharon Hewitt.
Phyllis Harley.
John Carter.
Alexander Congress. Matthew Brown. Devon Lutz. Jim Piper.
Jamal Wilkins.
Raymond Poirier.
Jackie Lois Plummer.
Roshi Cook.
Helen Makula,
Diane Goldberg. Natalie Thomas.
Karen Muir.
Helen Verney,
Helen Amelia.
Mary Minardi.
Mark Warner.
Jim Makula,
Christian Miller.
John McNamara.
Marilyn Rayho,
May it be so. Wicca, paganism, magic, spells, Harry Potter. All of this has come to be seen by orthodoxy as anti-Christian and the work of the devil. And Hollywood hasn't helped, especially this time of year with Halloween and all the movies that vilify magic as if it is something evil, but magic at its core is about intention. You've been experiencing actually magic and spells this morning. It's about words, phrases, and clauses to create a desired upon outcome. I admit that there's a dirty side to magic. There's a dirty side to everything. That's life. But most magicians, most witches, most warlocks, call them what you want, are using magic to make the world a better place. Am I right? And anecdotally, a fun fact, holly was the tree that the Druids used to make their wands. Hollywood. Nature-based religions are very much misunderstood, and fear keeps people from understanding their purpose and origins, to heal, provide meaning through rituals, and to bring the community together, just like all religions. Paganism is no different, but from the decimation of the Celts, Salem witch trials, we know the stories. Traditional religion has always been antagonistic toward earth-based religion. And why? When all of what they do, their rituals, and many of their beliefs can be traced back to nature-based worship. Worship of the stars, worship of the earth, animals, worship of nature, and the 5 planets that they could see in the sky. This is the origins of religion, like it or not. And even the songs we sing today, many of the hymns can be traced back to pagan origins. Lots of the Christmas songs especially. And it's right there in the religious stories in India and in Europe, in the Americas before colonialism, Native Americans, the Middle East, Iran and Iraq, in Egypt, all over parts of Africa. The story is pretty much the same. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I love knowledge. I love learning. I love to get to the beginning of how things start. And I like to go way back. And I'll do that with origins of coffee or cheese or the beginnings of an industry. But my favorites is the beginnings of religion. And when you go way back to the nomadic tribal peoples that we were, they were also deeply spiritual, deeply earth-based in their spirituality as a function of survival. And that theology was also astrological, of the sky. And the theology was grounded in the earth. The earlier humans came to understand their lives by the movement of the seasons and the cycles and the tides. They revered and mimicked many characteristics of animals to gain their powers. They saw, now just imagine, they saw these giant orbs in the sky, this really big one during the day and another smaller one at night, with amazement as an example of the gods or father, and the moon as the mother or goddesses. And the 4 elements, very natural: earth, air, fire, water. They revered as magical, because actually when you think about it, they are. To watch the ground and things grow up from the ground is amazing. To be able to breathe an invisible substance that gives you life, air. The magical power of fire to warm and cook. The life-giving power of water to quench your thirst or to cleanse your body. The ancients created rituals around these very basic elements, very magical elements. The 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. An ancient symbol of the cross. In fact, if you look at the sun on some days, it will form a cross. This existed long before Christianity co-opted and used the cross as its example. Many thousands of years before Christianity, the cross. The position we face during worship. How architecture is designed to face certain directions to capture the sun. Holy Communion, the body and the blood, is an ancient practice of consuming the power of something. Baptism, an ancient practice of rebirth and cleansing. Walking around a sacred object, an ancient practice of aligning spiritual intention. Chants and blessings, which are formulaic spells to call upon the gods or goddess for support or help or absolution of sins. Ancient practice. And then there's what we call alchemy, the old way of healing, mixing this, that, and the other, and coming up with perhaps something to an ointment to heal someone, or something totally new that you weren't expecting. Alchemy broken down, the chemistry. It's actually an Arabic word, al. You hear the word Allah. You could call it God's chemistry. And of course, we get modern medicine from this. Wow. All of this comes from pagan religious practices. So all religion for me is astro, of the stars, and theological, grounded in the earth. When you apply this approach to literature, especially with the Bible, you see things in an entirely new light. You see that we're all more alike than unalike, religiously speaking. We're all humanity on this quest to find meaning and purpose and creating stories and rituals to create that purpose. Now, I've used the term pagan, but what does that mean? Now, pagan simply means unorthodox, not of the accepted tradition. It's related to the religions that were practiced in the small tribes before a large institutional religion outlawed the old earth-based practices. Now, the word literally, one of the definitions says country dweller. You think about that, we call people country. We mean they are, old-fashioned, not hip. Perhaps they are simpler than most. So pagan is one who practices the old ways, the natural religion. They practice the religious rituals and hold religious beliefs that are considered old school, that existed before big religion suppressed or eradicated them. So the word pagan is misapplied in many of the Old Testament translations. Now there it means the Jewish writers were trying to say these were the practices before Judaism came in. Pagan. But that is more of an American word. They were talking about the fact that the early tribes were polytheistic, worshiping the earth and the animals, the moon, the stars. Misunderstood, as I've said. But if you go back and you look at the ancient Israelites and their worship, you'll see that it was also based on astrology, developed by the ancient Sumerians and Egyptians way back 6,000 BCE. They were revering the astrological age of Taurus and Aries. Look it up. The bull and the ram. They knew that the movement of the planets meant changes in their lives. The Moses story, then, comes to end pagan worship and begin what we know as Judaism and monotheism. And later in the New Testament, you get to the Virgin Mary, Virgo, an ancient symbol of Isis in Egyptian religion, who is a moon goddess. And in the New Testament, you enter the beginning of the age of Pisces and the end of the age of Ram or Lamb. The two fishes in Christianity a representation of this new age of Pisces, Jesus, the Lamb of God. I will come to make you fisher of men. So this is all over the New Testament. Hidden remnants of the ancient ways of understanding life through astrology, nature, the sun, moon, and stars. Now, I know most of you may not know this, or maybe you do, I don't know. But you can find this also in Islam as well. I'm not picking on Judaism or Christianity. And in Islam, it is said that they have, prior to the establishment of Islam, when it was polytheistic worship in and around Mecca, it was said that they had 360 gods that they worshiped. Now notice that number, 360 degrees, like a circle. And if you look at Islam, it has the crescent moon. That's a hint that it is tied to the old ancient ways of worship of the moon. Now, some Muslims will argue that and debate that what I'm saying is not true. But they don't argue and debate that the walk around the Kaaba counterclockwise was practiced thousands of years by polytheists before Islam became the established religion in the 600s of the Common Era. This walking around the circle as a ritual was something pagan groups did for many thousands of years. So there's nothing new under the sun. I think this is an important unifying factor in understanding the universality of all things, that humans have for a long time been seeking a path to wholeness and oneness and meaning. For Native Americans, this was also true. Worship of the earth and the elements. Ken Burns has a new documentary today out on the American buffalo. It's really good, very sad. And Peter Coyote, great name, is the narrator once again. He's got that voice, you know, that really brings things together. And the Lakota had a practice of the Sundance worship to end the summer cycle. Very similar to what we're talking about, different ritual, but with Samhain. And so we find this same kind of spirituality all over the planet. I think I'm making my message this morning related to our theme of pluralism, that we all move towards spirit or God or the gods or the cosmos, call it what you like, from many paths. But there is one yearning for home, one yearning for understanding, to make sense out of suffering and death, and make peace with our lives using stories and rituals to help us embody what we believe. Paganism is not dangerous or taboo unless, like everything else, if it is practiced irresponsibly or if we become fanatical or extreme about our beliefs. But most religions I have found teach balance and moderation, forgiveness and love as paths to wholeness. And that's why I really wanted to have this service this morning, to give a shout out to our Full Circle women's group. They've been around for 25 years, offering blessings, incantations, rituals for our congregation and for their divine feminine energy. And I give thanks for them. They have recently bought some new benches and added some lights out to the labyrinth. So I invite you after the service to, I think they will be having an after hour that will eventually get to the labyrinth. They'll meet in the outdoor playground downstairs. I invite you to that after hour session. Because as much as there is mystery in life, it's not that mysterious when you think about it. When you think about the reason we do things. And I want to say a little bit about Samhain, which of course comes to us as Americans as Halloween. And the Christians have this neat thing of putting a holiday over top or a celebration over top of a pagan holiday. And so it's All Saints' Day, and that's fine. That's fine. Because the important part is the ritual. The ritual. But All Hallows Eve is Celtic or Gaelic. It's an ancient celebration to remember the dead. You find this in other cultures in Africa, China, Japan. In Mexican culture, it's called Dia de los Muertos. So ancestor worship, an ancient practice, remembering those who have gone beyond the veil. And in Samhain, in this time of year, it is said that the veil is thin. It's that time to connect with loved ones who have died. So it was a somber but also happy time to figuratively and literally speak to the deceased and check in or ask for guidance. And notice, particularly in Europe and America, that this celebration happens during the fall. When the leaves are dying on the trees, there you have a clue that the celebration is connected to the seasons, the natural cycles of life. The falling, dying leaves remind people about death. And so they naturally create a memorial around this reality. It's not that mysterious to me. Especially when, I can be morbid sometimes, but when you think about 109 billion people who have ever lived on the planet, 109 billion people have lived and died. And there are 8 billion people alive today. So there are more people who are dead than alive. So it makes sense to me, especially when this was created, when people didn't live that long, that a celebration would be created. A memorial would be created around this time of year. And I think it's important for us to take time to remember those who have passed. It gives us pause. It helps give context to our own lives. It reminds us to appreciate those we love. It reminds us of our own fragility. I have come to see religious practices as not so mysterious. When you delve deeper, they make more sense. The songs we sing, all the stuff we do, even as Unitarian Universalists, we try to say we're not like them, but we are. It's all about aligning the mind, the body to something bigger. And when you look at the sun or moon, you see something bigger. When you see animals in their natural state and that consciousness, it amazes us. When you walk around a labyrinth, you feel connection. There are invisible forces, powers, gravity, the wind, the air we breathe, and more that give us pause, that we cannot explain. That is the sublime. That is the divine mystery. That is what many call God. And it is worth our thoughts, our appreciation, our praise, our worship, and even our reverence. My friends, as you contemplate the message today, the invisible and invisible powers in the universe, reflect on those you have lost, those you have loved. That's the time of year we are in. That's what the falling leaves remind us of. And in so doing, you will connect to the ancients, to their traditions of honoring Mother Earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the natural world. That is my prayer for you this morning. Amen.